What I'm next going to talk about is not your mother's cause marketing. There was a time not that long ago, early 80s, when cause marketing really was synonymous with programs like the famous American Express Statue of Liberty campaign, where if a consumer used a card, a donation was made. It was a purely transactional, do this and we'll give that type of a relationship. So what I'm going to quickly do is take a tour with you through these 6 concepts, these 6 types of initiatives. The first 3 are more marketing focused, more brand development, more sales, bottom line, what are we going to do in the marketplace oriented. The last 3 are more on a corporate level. How are we going to express our values? How are we going to achieve broader corporate objectives? So first we'll look at cause promotion, the idea that a corporation provides resources for promotional programs that increase awareness and concern about a cause, or support fundraising, or get people to get involved in some way. A great example of this, and a real leader in this area, is Macy's. Macy's is one of the rare companies. I've been running the Cause Marketing Forum for 10 years, and in the course of that have probably met 25 people who actually have the title, the words cause marketing in their title. And half of them are at Macy's. They have really made this not just a nice to do, but a must do part of how they go to work. And they've developed a variety of cause promotions, many built on a similar concept. They will have promotional periods in which they align with a major nonprofit. They also have any of your groups ever been involved with the more localized group program called Shop for a Cause? Yeah. So Shop for a Cause is a variation on this, but in most of their programs they align with a single group. In this case, reading is fundamental. And they say during a specific period, often several weeks long, if you go into our stores for a $3 contribution, we'll give you a coupon that's worth $10 off a $50 purchase or some variation like that, and the money will go to the cause. What they've learned over time is that there are 2 things. One, if you don't get your employees, the gatekeepers, the people literally at the cash registers, to be, it's the old McDonald's, would you like fries with that? Would you like to participate in our great fundraiser that'll save you money supporting RIF? If that question doesn't get asked, if the table topper doesn't get put out, compliance is going to go way down. And just as Chris was talking about, if you simply say, you got to do it, it's your job, yeah, well, we all know how effective that is. But if you get a partner that will actually put feet on the street and make the calls and have meetings that inspire and explain what it is that in their job these folks can make happen simply by getting involved, and how appreciative they are of the frontline staff getting involved, the change can be astronomical. So in the case of this RIF program, they've raised $21 million through this $3 at a time mechanism between 2004 and 2011, involving 800 stores, involving ever-increasing participation by the RIF staff, to the point where they greatly increased their store visits, and from 2010 to 2011, they went up from a $3 million program to a $4.9 million program. It makes a huge difference what the role of the nonprofit is. This is the idea of cause promotion. Not necessarily the corporation giving the money, but doing things that will get other folks involved in participating and supporting a cause. Cause-related marketing is that traditional, if you do this, we will give that relationship. And of course, nowadays it has a million variations. Sometimes it is buy this, sometimes it is use this coupon, sometimes it is like, sometime on Facebook. It can be many, many different forms. And sometimes there's this whole new generation, and some of the gentlemen this morning were talking about how social entrepreneurship is so hot. There are companies that are built with a DNA that is in which giving back and a transactional cause-related marketing buy one, get one concept is built into it. Tom's Shoes is a perfect example of that. Is anybody here not familiar with Tom's Shoes? And the reason why is that Tom's Shoes is a company that is fabulous at telling its story. It has such a compelling story. This fellow went on a journey, went to the Himalayas, no, that's another story, and saw that there were shoeless kids that needed shoes, figured out that he could make them, and he made a unique market promise. Every time you buy our shoes, we will put shoes on the feet of a child in need somewhere in the developing world. They didn't have anything. In 4 years, they went from something that was being run out of his apartment that he shared in Southern California to having sold 1 million pairs of shoes and concomitantly having given away 1 million pairs of shoes. It was the engine that drove incredible growth for this small company, and there are many others like it. Now, one thing that's interesting in this particular example is that the traditional cause-related marketing program, and most programs when I got started 10 years ago, were company with hero nonprofit. We are Acme Company, and we work with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and you should support them, or we will give $1. Increasingly, companies are saying, we have a choice. We can say that we are supportive of a cause, but we don't necessarily have to say that we are putting the spotlight on one charity. And very often, as in the case with Tom's, they do work with many nonprofit organizations, but in this case, they're using them for their ability to deliver on the mission. They are the folks who actually give away the shoes, and not so much in terms of giving them the spotlight. The spotlight is remaining on Tom's. That is why, again, as we focus today, if you're going to play in this game, you really need to figure out how you're going to do something that is such great value that you will be a partner and an ally, or figure out that it's worthwhile for you to be a sort of a silent, enabling beneficiary. Corporate social marketing is the idea that a corporation will support the creation of programs that change behavior, like don't eat the pie, you fat slob, David Hessekiel, because you've already eaten a whole cupful of the chocolate cherries that were out in the hall, or don't smoke, or recycle, or whatever your goal may be. The goal here is to change behavior in a way that will get the corporation accolades for having made a contribution to the improvement of society. At the same time, it's doing good things for their business. A wonderful example is Energizer, who discovered 20-plus years ago that there was a significant number of people who were dying in home fires that had smoke detectors, but the smoke detectors weren't working because the batteries had never been changed. And so they created an occasion. They made it easy for people to remember that they needed to and when they should change their batteries by saying, in the fall, when you change your clocks, you should change your battery. And they made it an alliance with the International Association of Fire Chiefs on a national level to get the word out through PR and advertising, but also use their network to work on the local level with local fire departments, with local education, school kids coming in and learning the lesson, getting a certain amount of supplies of free batteries that they could give away to people who wanted them. Great photo ops, of course. You know, every local paper likes a picture of the fire company doing something philanthropic every once in a while. And now, of course, as we've gotten into the internet age, you know, you can also support the cause by going online, by interacting with their Facebook campaign, etc. And heck, you can join the Bunny Brigade. Who wouldn't want to do that? Corporate philanthropy is now in that second group of more corporate-oriented programs. It is the traditional idea that a corporation makes a direct contribution to a charity or a cause, either in the form of a cash grant, a donation, or in-kind services. And traditionally, this was something it was in the foundation. It was something that was done, but there was nothing more than maybe a check presentation, grip and grab, photograph. It wasn't publicized as much. Well, those days are diminishing because there is a desire for even philanthropic funds to have a strategic purpose, and so corporate philanthropy is much more integrated. Two great examples of this: Samuel Adams Brewing the American Dream. Has anybody here ever lifted a Sam Adams? They are they say the largest pygmy in the microbrewing industry. Microbreweries get about 6% of all beer sales. They account for 1% of all beer sales in the States. And the guy who started it back in 1984, Jim Cook, he couldn't get a loan, he couldn't get a distributor, and he went from bar to bar trying to sell in his beer. And he never forgot his humble origins, and about 4 years ago, they decided they wanted to give back. They were searching and searching. They decided that they were going to be supportive of local, lower-income micro-entrepreneurs in their hometown area of New England who were going into the food and beverage industry. And so they teamed up with Accion, which does microfinance, and they created a $250,000 revolving fund of loans, anywhere from $500 to $25,000, and a mentoring program to teach people the skills to use those loans and build more successfully and build better businesses. And they have been very wise in taking a slow and gradual growth, but to the point where they're about to have gone national. The revolving grant pool is now up to a revolving fund, loan fund is up to $1 million, and they're now going to make the program even more open to the public and more highly recognized. Very inspiring, very motivating internally, very much appreciated, and a terrific program. Pepsi Refresh, another example. 4 or so years ago, Pepsi decided that they needed to add more meaning to their marketing. They made a big noise about not advertising as they had traditionally on the Super Bowl, and to take about $20 million to put into a grant pool to be given away and to democratize this giving by enabling nonprofits to compete, to submit ideas for individuals and nonprofits to submit ideas for grants and then let people vote. George, who is here with DoSomething.org, is very knowledgeable about that programming. And if any of you know about this crowdsourced concept of giving, you know it's not without its challenges, but it is an example. Even though this was out of marketing funds, it was philanthropy that was done in a new and different way, and added a dimension to the Pepsi brand that didn't exist before. Workforce volunteering. Need I say anything after Chris Jarvis's fabulous presentation? Again, the idea of supporting, encouraging employees, and using that to build a bigger bond with them to move people up that scale to being engaged. God, if I ever sat in the cubicle next to Bob, I think I'd kill myself. But we do want them and this is a way to make that happen. FedEx, a great example of a program where FedEx has a vested interest in being supportive of the idea that drivers have to be more careful, that pedestrians have to be more careful on the streets, and they have taken an idea they gave grants out about, that they were providing educational programming on, but they now have a force of thousands of volunteers who go out each year around the world to make these presentations and to bring the program full circle. And then finally, socially responsible business practices, the idea that you change the way you go to business, whether it's issues of sustainability, of governance, of labor practices, the way that you conduct your everyday business reflects your values. And a great example of that is Whole Foods. And again, here we're going to see what we are seeing in a lot of these examples, that they're programs that often would have been thought of as only internally facing, indeed have a public face. So in this case, Whole Foods made a declaration: we are going to move towards only selling sustainably fished seafood products. They worked with partners, the Blue Ocean Institute and the Monterey Bay Aquarium, who came up with a green, yellow, red labeling system. Green, a fish that was being sustainably harvested from the seas. Good being, yellow being okay, could use improvement, but acceptable. And red being, you know, you're not going to be able to find any more Chilean sea bass if we keep up with what we're doing. And they made goals of when they would stop selling red labeled fish. They have met that. And they made a partnership with consumers by making this very easy and recognizable in their stores, so that it wasn't just something that suddenly you went to Whole Foods and you couldn't find the fish you want. You had an explanation of what was going on, and it built a bond with the public. So many companies do some of these. Some companies do all of them. Starbucks is an example of a company that does all of them. I loved that example of sending 10,000 to New Orleans in a time of crisis, because employee volunteerism was so important. And in fact, they do cause-related marketing in many ways, but one is through Ethos Water, that gives a nickel from each package sold for water projects. Corporate social marketing, they have various incentives, whether it's saving a dime when you bring in your own mug, or special days in which if you bring in your own mug, they will give you a free cup of coffee. So they're trying to get you to get away from using disposable packaging. Corporate philanthropy. Last year they made a major move to try to be supportive of funding and support of starting new businesses that would create new jobs in America, and they started it off with a $5 million grant. But at the same time, they also did cause promotion, where they created a bracelet which you could make. If you made a $5 contribution, you'd get this bracelet, and it would make you more aware of this issue, and the money would go again to their partner. Workforce volunteering, Chris went over very well. And then they are also, you know, God knows the billions of cups that they are responsible for throwing out, serving coffee and drinks in and then throwing out. They are trying very hard, and it's very challenging, to not only come up with a recyclable packaging, which is pretty doable, but coming up with the systems that will actually get them recycled, because a recyclable package that goes into a non-recyclable, to a landfill where it won't decompose is not a great purpose. So Starbucks is a great example. As you, again, may have noticed in most of these examples, it's not all one or the other. Integration, 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 whether among those types of programs or integration within companies in terms of trying to be more holistic. Now, God knows that within our organizations, there must be probably only one or two of you have any siloing going on within your organizations. But I know it happens in the rare, rare organization. It also happens in corporate America, and it will never be wiped out. But it is clearly a mantra that they're repeating. We've got to get things to work synergistically. So corporate marketing, corporate objectives, and brand marketing. Online efforts and offline efforts. Consumer engagement and employees. And of course, this so key to what we're talking about in terms of why we're all here today, the idea that you are developing a relationship with employees through their giving. My gosh, what a great entree to getting engaged with their company in different ways, local and global. So integration is absolutely key.